Okay, here we are in Kendallville, Indiana. This is 217 Juliet Romeo, Van's RV-14A. Getting ready to do a demonstration flight. We're going to mess with the G3X. We're going to try our Inogen G5 Oxygen, see how that works up at altitude. Get my monitor on to see what my specific oxygen is up at altitude. Currently, we're running about 96%, which is about right for me. I'm a little lower than most people, but we'll work on that. And we're going to do a little run up. I'm going to go mixture rich. I'm going to bring the RPM up. This airplane has dual PMAGs. We're going to check for about 30 RPM drop there on one mag. And about 40 on the other mag, that's fine. Exercise the propeller, looks good. RPM drop, manifold pressure up, oil pressure drop, oil pressure back up. So that's, the engine's running good. Temperatures are good. I'm gonna go ahead and dial in 10,500 foot for the autopilot. And we'll do a runway heading of 280. And I could have typed that in too by just hitting heading here and type 280. Do it that way also. So we're good there. So we know where we're going, we know how high we're going, and we're going to set up our indicated airspeed for the climb as well. I'm going to set it for 110 knots. That's a nice indicated airspeed climb, 110 knots right up there. So we're good there. Oh, set our flaps. Flaps are set here on the stick, just one kick down takes it to flex. So we're good there. Our trims are set neutral for vertical, and our aileron trims are about centered. So left and right on the aileron trim, up and down, just like my glass air. The flaps are here though, I'm not used to that. Autopilot is the red button on the right of the stick, push to talk on the trigger. So we know where we're going straight 280, we're going to 10,500. We're gonna climb at 110 knots. So we've done our run up, the air conditioning is currently on, blowing pretty cold, which is nice, because this plane gets really hot without air conditioning. I'm going to shut off the air conditioning for takeoff. It's really not necessary. The book says to do it, so I'll do it. It's they do that to make sure you have enough power. Basically, they don't want you to be the air conditioner probably robs around 12 horsepower, which is nothing. This airplane's about 1,300 pounds and has 210 horse. So I mean, it climbs wonderful. So when we take off, we're going to accelerate to 65. We're going to pitch up. And then we'll accelerate to 110 knots, and then we'll engage the autopilot, let us automatically climb to 10,500. So we'll climb in indicated airspeed mode. We have that set up. Flight director's ready. We'll hit autopilot after we take off and do an indicated airspeed climb. Other than that, everything looks good. Checked the controls earlier, free and correct. Good there. We do have one warning on the EFIS, the IBBS backup battery I have removed. It failed. That's not a problem. This airplane has two alternators and a battery. So if the alternator fails, I'll go to the backup alternator, and then the battery is good for about an hour or two. So the backup is failed. We have one warning. I usually wouldn't take off with a warning, but we're good there. So fuel is on proper tank. Just double check everything. Mixture's rich. Propeller, I went a little quickly on the mixture. I'd usually leave that lean on the ground. Propeller's all the way forward. And we'll go ahead and do our landing lights, strobe lights, and bring our fuel pump on. And we are good to go. No warning, another warning lights. Alternator's good. And we'll give our announcement here. And Kendallville traffic. 217 Juliet Romeo. We're going to be departing runway 28, and we'll be straight out westbound, Kendallville. So we've talked to Kendallville. We've announced our intentions. I don't see any traffic. They have gliders here, so you definitely want to look for the gliders. Aren't any out today. And double check canopy's locked. No warning that the canopy's unlocked, so we're good there. And we'll turn off the air conditioner now. I'm going to leave the fan on though. Provide some nice ventilation. Open up the vents, and it is, what's the temperature today? The temperature is 84 or 87 degrees. So little warm today, so we're lined up. The plane accelerates real quick, real easy to fly, but it's pretty quick, so we're going to get on the throttle. Airspeed alive, fuel flow is good. We're on the center line. And 50, 55, 60, 65, up we go. Here we go. Looking good. It's only showing 16.5 gallon per hour. That's about a gallon per hour low, so I'll be adjusting that K factor to get that fixed, but that's an easy fix. And we climb out at full throttle. Flaps come up. Flaps are retracted. And we're at 100 knots. And we're up 500 foot. Fuel pump comes off. Looking good. Okay, we're good. We'll go ahead and engage the autopilot. Autopilot's engaged. It's going to climb at it's going to pitch for 110 knots, and it's going to go to 10,500, and it's tracking 280 in heading mode. So we got full throttle, 16 gallons per hour, which again is too low. It's an adjustment in the K factor. The previous owner didn't have it set up right, so I'm going to fix that. Oil temperature is 196, oil pressure 75, looking good. And we're 1315 on the Odyssey GT, which is perfect for the climb. Odyssey HT is 347, so no problem there. I'm going to go ahead and turn to the north. So we just grab the heading here, and well, here, let's just do it here. We go heading. Just type the heading and type 360, enter. Airplane will enter a right-hand turn. Look for traffic, looking good. And I usually go full screen here for the map, and then I leave the engine monitor up over here. So I want to see the map here right now, though, so I'm ignoring the engine monitor indications at this point. Oil temperature just hit 200, which is fine. And we're climbing out at right at 1,600 foot per minute now at 110 indicated. So that's pretty decent. Oil temperature now 203. It'll stabilize probably around 207. It's pretty warm today. Temperature's already dropped off to 76 degrees, so we're at 4,500, climbing 10,500. Looking good. Then what I'll do is, and this, I know this is hard to see, but I'm actually going to start reducing the mixture right now, even though we're full throttle, wide open throttle, 2,700 RPM. I'm going to bring back the mixture to where we're going to target about a 1,300 degree EGT on the hottest cylinder in the climb. Contrary to what you've heard, you always want to fly these normally aspirated engines, wide open throttle, all the RPM you can get in the climb. The engine will run cooler. It's rated for full power. We're not making full power anyway at 5,000 feet. You're just slowing your climb and actually making the engine run hotter by running anything other than full throttle and wide open throttle and full RPM. Going through 5,500, climbing 10,500. Traffic looks good, no traffic on the screen. One neat thing this airplane has too, it has what's called vertical power. So if you notice, you only see 2 circuit breakers in this airplane, 4 actually. You have 2 over here because the what's called the PMAG ignition, which is an electronic ignition. It's electronic, however, it's backed up by its own internal generators. So it's a magneto that runs off the pads that has their own internal generators. It runs off the ship power up to about 2,000 or about 1,400 RPM, and then it turns on its own generators. But it has its own circuit breakers, and then the air conditioner down here has its own circuit breakers. However, the rest of the system is run through this vertical power. I can monitor all of the facets of everything running, and I can actually even see how many amp it's drawing. Like the Garmin G5 is using 0.1 amp. The Garmin GSU is using 0.1. The GMA, the audio panel is 0.3. The GTN's using 0.4. The nav section's using 2.1. On and on and on. A transponder's using a half an amp. Landing light. And I'll go ahead and flip off the lights now, since we're clear. Strobe lights are still on, of course. The MFD's using an amp. And if I have something that goes rogue, I can just shut it off right on the G3X screen. So it's really nice to monitor your systems using that. It's a very nice system. So we're in the climb again, passing through 7,500. Our climb is slowed down to 1,000 foot per minute. And again, I've targeted 110 knots today. So I'm going to go ahead and flip to the east now. Take a look. No traffic. Let's go ahead and go to the traffic screen just to take a look. No traffic on the screen. Don't see any around. Let's rip this around to an easterly heading. I'm using the turn knob now instead of the direct course. There's east. Again, we're wide open throttle. I'll back off the mixture just a little more. We're at 1275 on the GT. I want to be right around 1300. There we are. About 13 gallons per hour at this setting in the climb. Looks good. And we'll go to the map page again, back over here. Looking good. So we're getting up to 8,500. Check my oxygen up here. Kind of hard to read. The screen isn't real bright. Okay, I'm down to 92%. My heart rate's 103. I must be nervous. Our voltage is 14.1. We're drawing 25 amps of power total. Looking good. Coming through 9,000 feet. Again, going to be leveling 10,500. And our climb slowed down to about 800 foot per minute up at this altitude, which on a hot day like today, that's still pretty respectable to 110 knots. If I hold back on the yoke to 95 knots, which would be best rate of climb, we'd probably still get 12 or 1,300 foot per minute, but there's no sense doing that. Okay, looking good there. There we are, 9,400. $9,500. And we just got the warning horn, 1,000 foot to go. Check my oxygen again. And I'm at 92%, heart rate 101. We're now passing 9,900 feet, heading straight east. No traffic on the screen. Looking pretty good. And like I said, 800 foot per minute, which isn't too bad for a normally aspirated engine. 10,100. Again, we're intercepting 10,005. We should get a warning horn at 200 feet. There's our 200 foot warning. There's full screen PFD if you want that. Altitude's leveling 10,500. We're now 10,500 feet. So we're leveled off. I'm going to go ahead and back off the RPM. We'll bring her back to 2,500. There's 2,500 RPM, level 10,500. If you've noticed, I've never touched the throttle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my computer again. I'm going to go to lean assist here and go lean a peak. So I'm going to hit lean assist. Watch the autopilot here for a second. Make sure she stays leveled off. There she goes. Lean assist. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to back off this. I'm going to bring back the mixture until we see about 9.5 gallons per hour is going to be my guess. But we're going to look for every cylinder to turn blue here. Blue means they go lean a peak. And I'll be able to see the delta at which they, what they change at. Okay, number one cylinder's at 1410. We're 9.7 gallons per hour. 1420. 1430. 1440. Okay, number three just peaked at 1400. Number two peaked at 1400. Number four just peaked. And number one just peaked at 1445. I'm showing we're 60 degrees lean a peak on number three, 30 degrees lean at number four, 50 on number two, and 32 on number one. And they all peaked at about the same gallons per hour, so I'm going to say the gammy spread is probably close enough. We're trued out at 164 knots. Our ground speed is 178 knots. So level 10,500. Look at my oxygen's 90%. I'm going to go ahead and flip my oxygen on. Again, it's this G5 Oxygen generator. I'll flip it on. Make sure it powers up. There it goes. I'm going to put it on level 4. It is detecting my breath, and I can also feel what it's doing. Okay. I had a little camera failure there. I don't know what's going on, so I'll have to review the video. Anyway, we're at 10,500 feet. Coming along at 165 knots true, burning 9.7 gallons per hour, and we're lean a peak about 50 degrees. And with this electronic ignition, you can really go lean a peak. It keeps running well. So, we have that done. No traffic. I'm going to go ahead and turn to the south. And again, with this autopilot, it's very easy. I can just type here on heading, type 180, enter. The airplane will turn 180. It's going to hold 10,500. As you can see, the view is pretty good. Oh, making a right-hand turn here. I'm not sure if you got on the last video. Again, I have this Inogen G5. This is an oxygen concentrator. I have it set to level 4 right now, which would be set for someone on the ground that has some severe lung problems, but at 10,000 foot, and I'm checking my oxygen, on this meter on this continuous monitor. It appears, it's so hard to see with the sun. Yeah, I'm having a hard time reading. I got to take my sunglasses off here. I'm at 96% oxygen at 10,500 foot. So that's pretty good. And I can feel the oxygen when I breathe shoot a nice bolus right into my nose, so that's pretty cool. And again, I got full screen over here right now for the moving map, and I can switch this. I could go to a VFR chart mode if I want, and zoom in and out if you like VFR charts. I can look up waypoints on this screen. I can look up my flight plan. Here's our weather. Not much weather, as you can see. Terrain awareness. A dedicated traffic screen. And the vertical power. And again, I can turn off all of the circuit breakers. The circuit breakers are internally housed in what's called a vertical power box in the back here. And I can even see how many amps each device is using. And I can see if it's engaged or not. Like I can even bypass my switch, my dedicated switch, and turn on my taxi light here. So if I would have a switch failure, I could actually turn it on from right here, which is kind of cool. It's really nice to see what's really happening in your airplane. I can tell if I have any failures or anything right from the screen. That's a really neat, really neat thing to have. I'm going to have my general info page, and then I can run my engine monitor full screen if I want to over here. And again, we're almost 80 degrees lean on the leanest cylinder, which is pretty darn lean. I'm probably actually a little too lean at this point, not hurting the engine any. I mean, my hottest cylinder is 329 and my coolest cylinder is 296. So if I would bring up the mixture a little bit, I could bring in a little mixture. Let's see if we gain any speed. I'm at 163 knots right now. I'm going to richen her up just a scotch. About 30 degrees, I'm going to richen her up. I want to stay lean a peak on all the cylinders, but let's see if we gain any speed here. Now we're about 20 degrees lean a peak on the richest cylinder. Let's see what that does. So far I've gained 4 knots. I'm at 166. And I have went up about 0.2 of a gallon per hour. Yeah, I'm at 167 knots right now. That's pretty decent. Okay, I'm going to turn straight to the west now. So again, I can just type here on the screen, 270, enter. And the plane turns right, no traffic. The view is absolutely amazing out of this airplane. Even better than my glass air, which I love that glass air, but the view here is even better. Again, this autopilot's incredible. Garmin autopilots, they're just hard to beat. Has full auto trim. It's auto trim down. Ailerons have trimmed. It's an incredible autopilot. So we're doing 20 inches of manifold pressure up here. 2,500 RPM, 9.7 gallons per hour, 73 PSI, 190 on our oil temperature. Looking good. Hottest cylinder is 339, coolest temperature 309. So we did gain just a little bit of cylinder head temperature by going a little richer, but 339 degrees is nothing. Our ball is perfectly centered due to our yaw dampener being on. If I kill our yaw dampener, and I know you can't see this, but I'm going to kill our yaw dampener. And now we're starting to go off center, and you can maybe even see, I don't know if you can see how the plane now is skidding. So I'll kick the yaw damper back on. That'll straighten the airplane back out. Now you can see kind of wings level again. Pretty darn cool if you think about it. Oh, heading straight west. Not a whole lot to tell about this plane. Simple fuel system, left, right, on, off, on the fuel controller. Mags are typical, both left, right. Again, these are PMags, so they're electric driven off their own generated power. They use ship power to start, and then they come online about, it's either 1,400 or 1,700 RPM on their own. Looking pretty good. I'll check my oxygen again. 97% on the oxygen, so the oxygen generator is doing a great job. I'm using battery power right now, but I can also plug it in. But the battery is telling me I have 3 hours and 32 minutes at my current rate of usage. So, 166 knots true, 9.7 gallons per hour. It's actually, what I've seen, its optimum altitude seems to be at about roughly the same fuel burn. I get 172 knots true at 8,500 foot, maybe another 0.2 of a gallon. So it's really, it's about 17 nautical miles per gallon airplane, or roughly almost 20 mile per gallon, or 20 mile per gallon statute. That's looking pretty good. Everything's looking good. And if we wanted to check, we could dial in the nearest airport. Oops. Nearest airport. And we could hit weather. And they are at 30.09. So we could dial in 30.19, enter. So these just have a single AHRS unit. So if you would lose the AHRS unit, this has its own. This is a Garmin G5. This would be my backup. And it also has its own dedicated battery backup on top of my secondary alternator and my secondary ship power backup that I have, my IBBS system. So that's a really nice piece of equipment to have. And it's also integrated directly with the G3X. So if I change the vice versa, I could change the baro setting here, and it'll change on my G3X, or I can change it on my G3X, and it'll go here. And it's a fully redundant system. It has outside temperature, it has magnetic direction, it has vertical and lateral guidance, all in one unit. And it is telling me that it's engaged with the autopilot right now, yaw dampers on. And again, it just doesn't get much easier than this. You get lost with this airplane, you probably should be flying. Yeah, and I'll hit back, and I'll go to full screen on the map. I gotta go to map first, that helps if you select that. Full screen on the map over there. Looking good, no traffic. One thing to be aware of, if you use oxygen, you shouldn't talk a lot. I'm talking a lot right now, so I'm breathing through my mouth. If you're flying normal, you'll want to breathe just the oxygen with your mouth shut. Oh, again, we're looking pretty good here. We're maybe 10 to 15, 20 degrees lean a peak. So not real lean a peak, but doing well. Okay, let's hand fly a little bit. Similar in the glass air. And again, it looks like it had it trimmed pretty well. We're trimmed for level flight. It is skewing a little to the right, so I'll put in a little left aileron trim. That looks pretty good right there. So again, this is a 2-figure airplane. All right, this Virb camera is giving me problems. I don't know what's going on. But what I am going to do is take a look here in the audio panel section. It does say it's connected to the Virb, so hopefully this is recording. Anyway, we're flying along here. Autopilot's on. I'm going to kill the autopilot. I'm going to show you a little air work in this plane. Turn on the traffic. There's the traffic page. No traffic around us. Visually clear. So yeah, this is kind of like the glass here. It's kind of a two-finger airplane. I'm just barely moving it here. Doesn't take much. I'm going to pull it back. Don't pitch up. Pull her over. No real bad habits there. Build speed pretty quick. Not like the glass air though. Like here, let's go ahead and pitch her down. We'll pitch her down here. We'll get into the red line or the yellow arc there. Just hit the yellow arc. We'll pitch up. And again, just like the glass air, it's real simple. If you get crazy and you end up like this, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just level the wings. Level the wings. Nice and easy. When the wings are level, slowly pitch up. Pull some power too. Don't be afraid to pull some power. I'm just demonstrating a normal recovery without pulling power here, but it's really that simple. Or, let's say, you know, you're just really messed up. And let's say you end up like this and you just don't know what's going on. Just hit this blue button right here. You hit the blue button, it levels itself. There we are, back to level. And the nose should lower as soon as it hits 110. There it goes. And that's the straight and level that you can do with the autopilot. Get you out of trouble. So if you really don't know what's going on, just hit the level button. So I've killed the autopilot again. Now an interesting feature I'll also show you here in a little bit. And again, it's such an easy airplane to fly. You know, and I've never really done a steep level turn here. Let's try that. So let's get the wings level. Or 11. Yeah, put the nose on the horizon there. There's 60 degrees. Traffic. Yeah. Turns just fine. Look at that. No traffic on the screen. Roll right into a right-hand turn. There's 60 degrees. That's a 2G turn, roughly. A lot of it a little bit, didn't I? There we are. That's better. 60-degree turn. Seems pretty easy, doesn't it? All right, I got to head back to the airport. They'll want to close. We'll go direct to. Tell you what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to steer there manually. I'm going to reduce some power. Actually, I'm going to leave it fairly where it's at. About 9, we're only getting about 20 inches here. I'm going to head towards Kendallville. And we'll come downhill here. And if I wanted to navigate directly to there, just select waypoint, C, fix to, enter, hit activate. Then I can also hit nav on the autopilot, turn on the autopilot, and then I can select, let's go down to 2,500 foot, enter, and I'll hit vertical speed, and we'll rotate that vertical speed down, let's go 1,000 foot per minute. I'm going to back off a little power. Autopilot's now going to intercept 1,000 foot per minute, which it just intercepted. And at 1,000 foot per minute, my little blue thing, it's got a little arch there, it's putting me way past airport. So I'll back off even a little more power, keep us out of the yellow arc, and I'll dial in about 1,200 foot per minute. I wouldn't recommend that with passengers, hard on the ears. So we're coming down at 1,200 foot per minute. Autopilot has that nailed. And we're just hitting the yellow arc at 156 knots, indicated. 156 indicated. So that's fine. It's a smooth day, no worries. What I don't like about this plane that I liked about the Glass Air, yellow arc starts at 156, which to me is pretty darn low. Red line is 176 indicated, which to me again is low. The Glass Air, the yellow arc didn't start till 260 or 256, I can't remember. The yellow arc started 100 knots higher in the Glass Air, and red line wasn't until almost 300 knots. You couldn't break that Glass Air if you tried. This airplane, you want to use a little more kick gloves with it. It's a strong airplane. It's rated, I believe, +6, -3 on the G's, but it's nothing like the Glass Air was. Okay. And the temperature up here is only 65 degrees, and I have good airflow out of these side vents, but I'll go ahead and flip the air conditioning on. That'll give me some cool air coming out of these rear vents. And I can already feel it getting cooler. I'm getting nice cool air out of the vents. Again, my engine temperatures, my hottest cylinder is 304, coolest temperature is 276. Pretty easy peasy. I switched to the right tank earlier. I'm not sure if the camera was recording then. And I will go to our map page. Then we'll overfly Kendallville. We'll probably go over the top at around 3,500. I don't want to come down much faster. We're into the yellow arc at 160 knots right now, which is fine. I'll back off just a little power. The ground speed's 178 knots, true speed's 179. We got an 18 knot headwind according to this. Indicated air, or excuse me, a 0 knot headwind, losing my mind, 17 knot crosswind. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do something interesting here. I'm going to hit this emergency button. I'm going to activate Smart Glide. Best Glide Airport, is going to be Kendallville. I'm going to select it. I'm going to activate it.
Glide active.
I'm not going to activate the squawk. Now what it's going to do, I'm going to back off some power here. If you notice, it's pitching up. You're saying, why would it pitch up? Well, it's pitching for best glide. Because, again, this simulates an emergency like we lost our engine. So I'll bring back the engine to about 10 inches of manifold pressure. That's probably close to being about right. It's at 120. Now it's pitching up. There it goes. Now it's going to start pitching down because it's interstepping that 80 knots. We have now, Smart Glide is active, and we're over the airport. We're over Kendallville. So it's going to pitch. It's going to keep this best glide rate. I'm going to keep an eye on it because it's getting a little janky on me here right now. That's doing okay. So it's at 80 knots, and now it's circling the airfield. So what it's going to do, we're over Kendallville. And Smart Glide is doing what it should do. It is circling the Kendallville airport. We are circling the airport. And it'll continue to do this. From what I've read is it won't line you up for the runway, but we could have selected an instrument approach to do that and left the autopilot on. But Smart Glide does work. It does what it says it is. It has 80 knots nailed. It hasn't deviated. Looking pretty good. Again, it's just circling the airport. I'll go disengage. I'll hit cancel glide. It confirms.
Glide canceled.
It just told me in my headset, Smart Glide canceled. So that works pretty good. Air conditioning is nice and cold. Love that. Love that. And I'll make an announcement. And Kendallville traffic, 217 Juliet Romeo is overhead the airport, circling 4,800. Will be descending for left-hand traffic for runway 28 Kendallville.
Airport, Northern Jet 475.
So I'll just leave the power reduced here. I'm going to pitch down a little bit. Stay out of the clouds since we're VFR. And again, this is just so easy to fly. Very easy to fly. And Kendallville, 217 Juliet Romeo now 3,800 foot. We will do a midfield, across the field, coming from the north, and then enter a downwind 28. Kendallville.
Kendallville traffic, Cessna 739 Kilo Sierra, departing 28, Kendallville.
And 7 Juliet Romeo's right above you. We'll keep you in sight.
Runway counter traffic, Command 293 Yankee, final 23 runway.
Okay, looking good. We're going to check on our landing checklist here. The fuel is on the proper tank. I'm leaving the mixture where it is for now. Fuel looks good.
Traffic number 476 Delta Charlie, turning left base 23, midfield.
And Kendallville, 7 Juliet Romeo, we're midfield crosswind, 28 Kendallville. And we're a little high, we're about 700 foot high. That's okay, we'll extend out. Looking good. We're at 126 knots, so we're a little too fast. We'll get the landing lights on, taxi lights on. We'll go ahead and bring the fuel pump on. Again, fuel is on. No traffic in sight, looking good. Just that one departing. And we're coming up on our target altitude of 2,000 feet. Kendallville, 7 Juliet Romeo, downwind 28, Kendallville. So we just did our downwind.
Charlie, final 2-3, set field.
Now we need 100 knots before we initiate any flaps. So now that I have my 2,000 foot, I'm going to just kind of haul back on the stick here a little. There's our 100 knots. Right now we go to 1 notch of flaps, put the power back in a little, and I'll bring the mixture in. Trim up just a scotch. We do have our landing lights on, fuel pumps on, fuel proper tank full rich, props forward. Looking good. We got plenty fast. We're at 97 knots, that's plenty fast. I'll go base. I'm gonna stick another notch of flaps in. Then I'll trim up a little too. Every time you put in flaps, put a notch of, put some trim in. Traffic looks clear to the right. Kenneville, 7 Juliet Romeo, base, 28, Kenneville. Okay, we need to start coming downhill, so I'm going to get some power off.
666 up kilos, you got that?
Like I said, this plane glides. It's a glider. That's all it wants to do is glide. And landing gear is down. I got 3 green. Oh, that's not glass here. Never mind. Okay. And Kenneville, 7 Juliet Romeo, final, 28, Kenneville. We're a little high. We're plenty fast, so I'm getting all the power off. I'm going to go full flaps. All the power's off. And I'm going to dial in some trim. We got 40 degrees of flaps out. I'm feeling the trim for the glide. I'm going to let go of the yoke. That feels pretty good. Trim looking real good. Now we're bleeding down some speed. 78 knots. Short final, white over red. 73 knots, 72. This is looking pretty good. Oh yeah, we got this. Okay, I'm just gonna hold the nose off. Stick all the way back. There we are, stick still on. I got the stick in my gut, the nose wheel still off. Boom, it just fell down. There you are. That's all there is to it. Flaps all the way up. Mixture back to a little lean. Watch where you're going. Don't run off the runway, Todd. Fuel pump off. Air conditioning is nice and cool. Strobe lights off. Landing light off. Taxi light stay on for recognition. Bring the trims back to neutral. Trims are neutral. Flaps are up. Initially, they go to the reflex position, which I think is about 3 degrees, and then you got to hit them again to get them off reflex. Or get them to reflex, I guess it would be the correct term. Again, this has cast ring nose wheel, so you, it's actually pretty active. If you got a little power on, the rudders will steer the plane, but if the rudders aren't working, you know, you don't have enough airflow, you got to tap the brake. You just don't want to ride the brakes because you burn it up. And we have a Cadillac in the runway. Appears to be about a 70. Or in the taxiway. Too funny. We're going to put a little fuel in it. Just going to pull up here. There we are. We'll go air conditioner off. Taxi lights off. Now when I kill the avionics, I'm going to lose you. So looking good. Air conditioner's off. Fans off. And we'll kill the mixture.